Welcome to Resilient Love Podcast.
Join hosts Quentin and Brianna as they discuss tips on love, life, and
business.
Let's get into this next episode. Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
So we're back with another episode of
Resilient Love.
So today we have some great guests with us from their awesome podcast, We Got It. And so we want to go ahead and allow them to join us. It is Mr. Darryl and Miss Chyanne. How are you guys?
Hey, we're good.
How are you?
Good. So we definitely want to just welcome you guys to the podcast. And listen, we want to jump right into this topic. As you already know, we love to talk about love, life, and business. So give everybody a background on who you are and how you met.
You better give her.
It's a long story, but
my story is way better than hers. But
I was gonna
hers
say
is more accurate.
Short and sweet. Darryl and I met online. It's a known joke that I do all of my shopping online, including for husband, apparently. So, yeah. So we've been married for 5 years now, and we have 2 girls. They came bundled in a perfect little package for me. So I'm a stepmom. And Darryl is obviously divorced and then remarried to me. So that's kind of our quick and fast dating / marriage story. And throughout that, we've just got a lot accomplished in the last few years with our business and adding more businesses, our podcast. We got a lot going on.
Right. Man, 5 years. I gave you guys like 10 or 15. Y'all are just a match made in heaven. So go ahead, Q.
So with this, it's just funny, the online and shopping online. It's just so funny.
That was a good one.
It made me think about Prime.
Yep. That's right. It was Amazon Prime before there was Amazon Prime.
Exactly.
So I'll jump right into our next question. Now that we have heard about your love story, what led you all into business?
Oh wow. Every entrepreneur probably has the same answer, and it is everything about being independent, right? And being able to provide some level of product or experience or customer service that you feel is lacking in the current industry that you want to be in. And I think that for us, it had everything to do with customer service, and we had such an alignment when our values for customer service, really kind of pushed us to kind of start something to be able to show people that there is a better product out there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the technology or anything fancy. It's just literally something as simple as customer service.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to cost you, a small fortune to be able to get the service that you deserve as a person. Darryl and I, work hard for our money, and we think that everybody obviously works hard for their money. And when you spend it, you want to make sure that you're getting the best service for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that was important to us. Like Darryl said, it was just, delivering something that we felt was lacking in the industry that we started in. And it's just kind of grown from there.
Yeah, that's interesting because for Quentin and I, we got into T-shirts first. And so that really, and like you said, the interest came in where there are people that speak about Jesus Christ and, that encouraging or inspirational messages, but we wanted to give it more of a impactful and powerful way. So that's what led. It was Quentin woke up one morning and said, I need to wake up, pray, and level up. I need to level up. So that literally led to our first shirt, Wake Up, Pray, Level Up, Reposition for Purpose. And that one was a really trending message in our local area, and we're still pushing the message. So those of you out there, the shirt is still out there. But the point is, like you said, really zoning in on what does the market need. So thinking back to that, what market did you all decide to jump into?
Well, the first thing that we had kind of made, I guess, a big plunge into was doing wedding photography as a couple. And so it wasn't really something that we had planned on doing, but we didn't even make it halfway through our wedding. And Darryl was like, we can do this better. And it wasn't the photography that he was talking about. We had a great photographer,
just
but
the
like,
wedding experience in
but just the
general.
wedding experience. Like he, listened to me complain a lot about people not even caring about our wedding. And we ended up doing so many things ourselves because I was like, I'm not spending, thousands of dollars for somebody to provide this service that I don't think that they're actually going to come through on delivering what they say that they're going to deliver. And so like we had a bartender at our wedding that was so drunk that she was like over pouring our guests, giving away our
Trying to
alcohol,
steal from us.
was trying to get money back.
Yeah.
Like we had, like, it was just, it wasn't even anything really to do with photography. It was just that we liked photography.
Yeah. And I think that,
Exactly.
I mean, realistically, when it comes to our business or anybody else's either, I mean, there's only a handful of people out there that are innovators, right? The Elon Musks of the world, and these people, they think on an absolute completely different level. And I mean, if everybody wants to be that the next Elon Musk, I'm like, they have a tough road, because like I said, there's a lot of sacrifices that kind of go along that way, let alone the like the intelligent sides of things. But I've heard people, they kind of say, well, Bill Gates is one of those innovators, and I laugh and I'm like, well, actually, Bill Gates is not that. He's not that much of an innovator. The guy is just really smart at identifying certain things within industries and being able to capitalize on that. So Bill Gates never actually did kind of invent a lot of the things that Microsoft had come out with. It has everything to do with finding the people that are really good at what they do, and then hiring them, and then purchasing the idea and getting the idea, or taking an idea and making it better. And it's like I said, we're not rocket science here. T-shirts and weddings, like these aren't things. However, when you find something, yeah, and I mean, just like in a marriage, when you find something that works, you need to be able to kind of really narrow that down, or they call it niche now. I just hate that word. I hate that word. It's so overused.
I'm like, just say that's my area.
Yeah, that's my area of expertise. That's my green zone. So that's where I'm at.
And look, forgive me, I said we got it, but we got this podcast. So either way, you guys check the link in the description, because we want to make sure you guys go and listen to them as well. So correction, but I got you guys.
I appreciate that. No worries.
Yeah. So our next question, and this one's very important, especially to us. How do you manage so many businesses and still find time for each other? As you know, Brianna's a teacher. I'm a remote worker. Sometimes we find ourselves in weeks where we're roommates. We just passing by. Okay.
We call it hallways.
Yeah. So how do you manage it?
Well, I guess if she's looking at me as if I'm supposed to start this.
Well,
one,
hey,
so.
I think your idea might be different than my idea.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's like, I mean, in the world of social media, in the world of voice tune and face tune and all these, sometimes there isn't enough time. Sometimes we don't find the time. It just happens. I think the difference, for us, and my only experience is only the people that we associate with, right? And and it has everything to do with empathy and some compassion, and being able to understand kind of where the other person's coming from, because you kind of developed a lot of contempt in relationships when someone is either spending too much time away from you, or maybe it's the complete opposite. They're clingy. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just, like, there's so many facets of that dynamic, that if, as long as you have some compassion and some empathy for that person, to be able to really understand where they're coming from and why, that's kind of where I think that we kind of reconnect. I'll be at work, she'll send me a TikTok or a Facebook kind of post or something funny.
TikTok.
But it's just something that allows us to kind of connect on that little level, right? Where it's like, you know what? Yeah, she's over there thinking about me and I'm over there thinking about her. And I know that we're going to be seeing each other here in a couple hours anyway, but
Mhm.
it's just kind of that reconnecting and finding the little moments, I guess, in time.
Yeah, communication and empathy, like Darryl said, empathy is a big one for us. And the communication is huge because because we have done so much in 5 years of being married and like 9 years of being together,
Mhm.
it did take us a while to figure out that we really need to communicate. And we knew that in the beginning of our marriage because we both came from relationships that didn't have the best communication. And
Mhm.
so it was something that was really important to us to try to always be open and then actually listen to what the person was saying. And so there are months that, we'll kind of do our little group chat with each other and ask how things are going. And Darryl will say, it's like, I haven't seen you. You've been, your head's been stuck in your computer editing or ordering or whatever it is that I'm doing. Or I'll say to Darryl, hey, like, do you really need to go to hockey for a fourth time this week?
Yes.
Because
The answer is yes.
I'm feeling
yes, I do.
like you're running away from me. And obviously that's not usually what he's doing, but well, maybe, I don't think you usually are, but yeah, so we just really try to communicate with each other to say, hey, we're feeling a little bit neglected in, the marriage side, or sometimes, we'll let our business kind of slow down a little bit and take a breather so that we can go on a family trip or just date nights, that kind of stuff. So it's just,
yeah. And the other thing is too, is it's just realizing that I think that honesty is the key to everything. And it sounds so cliche. It sounds so simplistic, and you read it in every freaking self-help book, but it literally has everything to do with your relationship. And if you're not honest with that person and saying to them that, hey, listen, I'm feeling a bit neglected, and you're afraid that person is going to get mad at you for saying that, then that's something that really needs to get kind of looked at in a little deeper. But for us, it's like, it's being able to speak the truth and say, like, listen, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I think is going on, and without having the fear the other person's gonna get upset with what you're saying.
And that's where that empathy comes in, is when your partner does come to you to say, hey, I'm feeling this way, is not just to instantly I guess put up your guard and fight back saying that's not what's going on, or it's important that I'm doing this. It's to actually listen to why they're feeling that way. And so we're just able to get a lot done because we're always communicating, and we do organize a lot.
Okay.
I just follow.
Okay, I was going to say, we're on the same page.
A lot of organization.
Yeah.
A lot
a rule
of
in our
times
house.
it gets on me.
Yeah. Well, in a rule in our house, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't exist. So if we're supposed to be going to wherever, it's like, well,
yeah,
I have something scheduled today, but
it's so bad that our girls have put a trip to Japan in our family calendar for like 4 years from now, so that we all know that that's when it's going to happen.
Wow. Okay, y'all might need to allow us to jump on the bandwagon, go with you, but
yeah, sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But apparently the whiskey and some Asian whiskey or Japanese whiskey is supposed to be pretty good. So
okay.
I've always been curious about hot sake.
Well, I don't know about hot sake, but apparently this it's Asian whiskey. It's made from rice. It's a whiskey. It's supposed to be really good. And so I had tried some at a restaurant there, and it's like really, it's kind of sweet. It's
more reason to go to Japan.
It's just another reason.
There's one reason right there.
Right.
Because Quinn, he loves cigars. He doesn't smoke them, but he just likes the illusion.
Yeah,
so that'll work.
Absolutely.
So, that's the funny thing about traveling and planning, but you also recognize the strengths and weaknesses of your spouse. And that also can relate back to your business. So when you guys think about your strengths and weaknesses, what's one of them? And how does that actually balance out for you guys? You know how people say the night owl versus the early bird? What about you guys?
Yeah, I think one of our biggest weaknesses that was pretty easy for us to figure out early on in our relationship and in business together is that we're both pretty strong-headed. Darryl and I have both been in, well, and Darryl still is in like a leadership role at in our careers, right? Like we've been managers, we've managed large teams, and so then when we start a business and I'm technically running it, but then Darryl's trying to run it at the same time, we were just kind of butting heads. But with us recognizing that, we've really learned to stay in our own lanes is kind of the way that we really like to describe things. And Darryl's really strong on like the technical side of things. He's very good at numbers and business and just that's kind of his thing, whereas I'm a little bit more creative and customer service related. And so when we start a new business, it's pretty easy for us now to be like, okay, this all needs to get done. This falls in your category. This falls in my category. And then anything that's left over, either we'll do it together or outsource it, or just rock, paper, scissors to see who's stuck with it.
Yes, the classic rock, paper, scissors. And I love how you guys said it's literally at this point, that's his area. Like with Quentin, he loves to talk about just something general is cars. So I'll say, oh, you see that white car over there? He's like, oh, the Lexus XR. I'm like, oh, yeah. That one.
Yep.
Well, that one.
Yep.
For sure.
But that's the thing. It's just, whether it be in business or in a relationship, it's the same thing. It's just like if you don't know what lane you should be in, well, maybe you should figure that out. And it's so whether you're wanting to expand the business, maybe the other person just wants to kind of make things smaller, maybe more intimate, and kind of do it that way. At the end of the day, I know that when it comes to like the bookkeeping and some of the background stuff for the website, and Chyanne knows that that's my end of the game. And if there's an item on our website or there's something on our website link that doesn't work, first thing she's doing is like, hey, listen, this isn't working. She'll even send me an email, send me a text, put it in the calendar, whatever I have to do to kind of make sure that I'm on top of my stuff. But she'll never go into the website and try and mess around with it without actually putting in the requests, right? Or the MOC to be able to make sure that she's okay to do that. But ultimately, it's like you said, it's knowing which lane is yours and just sticking within that. So.
Yeah. And it's great because we even use it within our household too. So when we first got together, I do not like doing dishes, and Darryl couldn't figure out how to put my laundry away for the life of him. I was like, it's color coordinated.
Well, they have those little plastic straps that go on the inside, and you try and put it on the hanger, and it don't fit. And I'm just like, yeah. Well, and then the one day I opened up and I seen the daughter's, I thought was Cheyenne's panties, and I was just like, I was like, when did you get these pairs? She's like, those are your daughters, and I was like, yep, I'm done. I was like, I'll just go do dishes.
So Darryl does dishes in our house, and I do laundry because I enjoy, putting away my clothes and organizing stuff, and Darryl's very specific about how things get washed, and so we just know, like in our household, and it's the same with the girls too. There's some things that one of them enjoy better, and when you enjoy doing the task that you are set to do, you usually will do it better than the one that you don't enjoy. So we just try to make sure that everybody's enjoying, their chores or their tasks or their jobs, whether it's at home or in business. Yeah.
Well, it has a lot to do with efficiency too, because at the end of the day, when it comes to business, like Chyanne, and I, there's certain things in business, I just don't want to do that. I would rather have somebody else spend the time to do that, and we will pay or hire somebody out to go and do that portion of the website or that portion of the design, and just it's easier and more efficient if they do it. Because if I'm going to do a task that I don't even want to do anyway, I'm probably not going to do it as efficient or as good as it should be. So in my opinion, it's just get it out and get it done, and you can move on to better things and that require your time and effort.
Yeah. And I like that too. We definitely have developed more time with outsourcing because you know how you try to do it all, but you really can't. So we definitely recognize that too. And that's why that intro you saw, we had to get some help. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Well, it's great because if you're able to outsource things, like for us, sometimes it's okay, if this is going to take me 6 hours, of my time, I could be better spent using that time somewhere else. We can just outsource it. And then a lot of the times, then we have more time as a couple and as a family because we're not spending 6 hours trying to figure out how to operate a new program to get something a certain way, right? So there's always that, you kind of look at a project and then you just weigh out the benefits of outsourcing if you can. And we know like it's not always doable if you're on a small budget, but sometimes you can find, up and coming people that would like to try something that might do it for a little bit less. Or if you're like us, you just train your children how to do some of the things
there
that
you
you have done.
go. Look,
And then
we
you pay
haven't
them.
got there yet.
Yeah, and then you pay them to do it. So at least they're making money.
Shoot, I remember the chores days. Those were the best.
Yep.
So yeah.
That actually, just before I go to the next question, one of my first roles that I appreciated from my dad was like the small entrepreneur opportunities, like mowing grass. Though he didn't have I came with a more of a formula system. He just said, "Okay, this is how you keep money in your pocket. We're gonna cut grass. We're gonna detail cars, X, Y, Z." So most kids were not, didn't have money. Where it was like, "How did you get all that money?" So I think it's very important to teach kids that.
Absolutely.
And so the next question, as we go more in depth, how has the pandemic challenged your household? All of us have been challenged in some way.
Yeah. So Darryl and I actually chatted about this on a previous podcast of ours, and we were a little bit worried at first that we were going to come across as maybe insensitive to the whole thing because the beginning of COVID really didn't affect us that much. It was off season for wedding photography in spring. Like we only really get wedding season here the end of June through September. And so other than Darryl having to move work into the house and the girls being doing school at home, not much changed for us because we're on a farm. So we were still able to leave our house. We were still able to run our businesses. The girls are old enough that they don't need tons of supervision. Like we could just help them with their homework. And so it wasn't really hard for us in our household because we were already kind of mentally prepared for hard times. Like the last year wasn't our hardest year in our family or in our relationships. We've had much, much rougher years. And so for us, we were kind of already, we were in a good mental state to be able to handle it. We had, money kind of put away. So for us, it wasn't too bad. But then moving into wedding season, we lost over 65% of our weddings. Like they all had to push, right? So that was hard, just dealing with a lot of other people's frustrations because you feel for them, right? And you're just obviously seeing all this revenue in your business kind of go away. And you're feeling for all of these people that are just having to move everything. And the girls did really good. It was hard on them not being able to see people.
I'm about to say,
right. Like that was a hard one for us. But
well, I think for us, it had everything to do with the fact that the year that we built the barn there, we have it at the farm is, and some of because that was one of the businesses that we had started and it failed. And people, like again, all these fake personalities and stuff out there on social media, and people say to us, "Wow, you guys are so successful," and I'm like, "Well, we've had a lot of failures too." And I mean, and we have no problem telling people about the failures because at the end of the day, those failures are what help us learn kind of what to not do in the future, right? Obviously, it's that famous saying of learning from your mistakes, and literally within business, that's kind of how this was. And going through that process, we lost just over $300,000 in that process. So coming into 2020 and everyone's showing dumpster fires on their social media and like this is the worst year ever, and I'm kind of like, our business has like grown so much in 2020. I was like, we've never been in a better financial situation. Like our family's healthy, we're healthy, we're happy. I got to go golfing more than I ever did. I took a 3-week vacation.
Well, yeah, we got a lot of vacation. Like there was a lot of perks.
But the thing is about it is that
Right.
it was your focus.
It's
where the focus was.
We focused on the good.
And a lot of people are like, well, like I said, the dumpster fire, and all they concerned about themselves was just the negative. And people are like, well, why are you so like, how can I be successful? And I'm like, show me your friends. I was like, I can tell you right now is your friends aren't helping your situation. If you want to stay home and play video games all day and you want to do nothing on an entrepreneurial level or a business level, that's on you. That's not on anybody else. No one's forcing your hand. So just get up, suck it up, and figure out what you want to do and get to it. And I know it's not as simple as that, but literally making the decision. And we tell our kids all the time, it's like, you are who you surround yourself with. So stop being so negative, focus on the positive, and start moving forward and be happy, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. So we just lived really tight. Obviously we're not traveling. So that was good. We did a little
save.
we did a little camping, but yeah, we just live a little bit tighter, so you're not spending tons of your savings. And Darryl's always really big on not living beyond your means. So, on our financial side, we're always really careful with that. And we understand a lot of people lost their jobs, and this will be a really, bad year for them. This might be their bottom year, but for us, it wasn't our bottom year. We had already gone through that. We learned a lot as a family. The girls really learned to communicate with us to say, hey, you guys are spending all of your time in your business. We need you to come and do more family nights like we normally do. And so it was really good because as a family, we learned a lot. And so hopefully for the people that do have a really bad, kind of pandemic time, hopefully their families and their businesses will be able to grow and learn. Like we started a business during a pandemic this year, and it's doing well, but we seen the opportunity, and we knew from our huge failure in starting a business, how to be extra careful in starting this business and making sure that it was something that would work well. And so for us, it's not too bad. It's kind of how you view it, like Darryl said, and we're trying to see the positive in things. So.
Mm-hmm. And that's good that you guys mentioned that, because with Quentin and I, we did like a short guide on conflict resolution. We were able to get our coaching certification. So like you said, it's really your perspective of the pandemic. And like you said, there's no, we don't negate or deny that there were other people that had really felt something. But overall, if you're still here, listen to this podcast, you had a good year.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Because you're still here to laugh with us.
Even turning, I was furloughed from 2 different companies I worked for. Mm-hmm. So, and these were major chain companies, and everything changed overnight.
Yep.
But had I not went through that process, I wouldn't have noticed a lot of things that I could do better. A lot of entrepreneurial dreams and goals that I really want to hit, and not fall into this situation again. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was a wake-up call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and it's actually, it's great you mentioned that, because in my industry that I manage is the oil field industry, and there's a 7-year bell curve for the oil field. And typically, like your infrastructure places, like your water and your hydro or your electric or whatever you want to call it, usually at the height of the oil field, they're at their low, and they literally have opposite bell curves. So, you can kind of see how this, like our province, or I guess equivalent to be your state, to be able to kind of work through those as a business, right? You see some businesses are doing well, some aren't, and at different times. And for me, is like I tell people all the time, and especially in our industry, is that when times are slow, if you're not living within your means, like the boat payment, the car payment, the fifth wheel, the camper, the quad, all of these things that you purchased on credit are now useless to you because you can't afford those payments, right? So living within your means is kind of a process that a lot of people in our industry go through. And so when they get to those times where they're 10 years down the road and they've gone through a couple of slowdowns, and all of they see the young kids kind of doing the same thing, and you're like, hey man, just give you a little bit of tip, right? You probably don't want to do that, and no, I'm good, and then and away they go. It's like, and it's almost like the parent looking at the kid, and you're kind of like, you know what, he's gonna have to learn from his mistakes and being able to kind of process that. And so as a manager, I tell people all the time when they come in, I say, listen, you know, I'll never ask you to work your days off. I will never ask you to put in overtime. I'll never ask you to do any of those things, because when you're not here, you need to be you can do whatever you love, whether it be with your family, your dogs, your kids, like your video games, whatever it is that makes you happy. That's what you need to do. Because when you come back to me for 15 days, because my guys work a 15 on 6 off, I need 100% attention from you. So when you're here for the 15 days, you could be anywhere in this province, in this country at any given time. But for 15 days, you're mine, and I can send you, and we need to be able to send you anywhere. And I said, so when you book your vacation, don't answer your phone. Don't do anything over and above for the company. And you see a lot of people say, well, I need you to do extra for the company. And I say, stop that. I was like, because this 2020 is a perfect example of what I tell people can happen, is that any company as solid as they are financially or ethically or culturally, however you want to put it, the Googles of the world, is that when things go bad, they will fire you, they will fire me, they will fire anybody else. So when you go on vacation, take your vacation. Don't work your extra time. Don't call when somebody calls you on your days off. Don't answer the phone. At the end of the day, just take care of you, because when you're at work and you're most effective, that's the best thing that you can give a company, is your 100% attention when you are there. But when it's your time, take your time and just stick to it.
All right. Well, if we were in your area, we might work with you. I mean, that was a good sales pitch right there. So, hey.
And that's not a lot of you don't find that principle in a lot of managers. So definitely that's great.
Just take your time and literally enjoy your time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that say after we're done the interview process that the interviews I do are not the same as, or they're definitely different than any other interview. And I said, well, this is not an interview. You wouldn't be here if I didn't want you to be part of this company, because I've done my research on you. I've called everybody I know that knows you. I've looked into you as much as I possibly can. So you sitting here, you already have the job. I'm just selling you now on this company. I'm selling into you the culture that we're trying to build. And I relate this to our personal business and our relationship, is that, listen, I'm selling you on what I can provide. And if you want to be part of that family and you want to be part of this what we're trying to do, then we would love to have you. But if you don't want to, that's fine. But I'm just telling you that the job is yours. You just need to tell me if this is going to work for you. But you need to be honest with yourself and you need to be honest with me. Is it going to work for you? And we have a lot of people that actually say, yeah, you know what? I think that you're going to hold me to a higher standard than I'm normally, and I don't think I'm capable of that. And I've had people not take the job, and I've had people that have never been held to that standard and take the job because they feel a sense of empowerment, right? That I can prove this to you, because nobody else has ever given them a shot. So we do the same thing in our relationship, Chyanne, and sometimes she doesn't allow me to get away with some crap, and sometimes she lets me shoot for the stars.
All right, exactly. And I feel you on that, because like one time, so as you guys know, he works from home. So if I'm coming home, right, the dishes are clear, going back to dishes. Okay, so now he's having his lunchtime. I get home at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I'm like, what? The dishes? So it's just like, it was so funny because it literally just happened. I was like, I know what you ate today, because I see it. I hope it was a good lunch.
Right.
But like you said, just laughing it off. And guess what Brianna does?
Yeah.
So,
and you got bigger fish to fry. You got bigger things to complain
My
about.
mom always
Right?
says to pick your battles.
Yeah.
I just said, was the pizza good? And I just go on.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it was.
So, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this or that before we get to the other one.
Sure.
So, it was kind of funny. I said, let me ask what they think. So, YouTube or Netflix?
I'm Netflix.
I'm a Netflix guy.
Okay. What's your answer?
Netflix.
Okay, I guess I'm by myself because I like YouTube. Phone call or texting?
I'm a phone guy. I hate texting people. I hate it.
I'm going to say texting
You
only
better say
texting.
texting.
because I usually am doing so much that I can't always talk on the phone. But if somebody texts me, I can kind of get back to them.
I say to her all the time, I'm like, hey, can you call your mom and ask her this for me? Sure. And then she'll just go click, click, click. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, can you call your mom? Well, I just text her. I'm like, why don't you just call her?
Because she's at work and she can't answer the phone, but she can look at her phone. If it was an emergency,
Right.
she would see it was an emergency.
She calls you all day long.
I know, right? My parents will literally text me, and I'm like, I text right back, and then we'll talk, right? And of course, I'm at a school, so they'll say, Brianna, you're at school. Get off the phone. I said, Mom, they're not going to call you if they take my phone. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you,
What
Quinn?
about you?
I'm definitely call. I'm old school.
Yeah, he really is.
I grew up
That's
around
all right.
older people, grandparents. So I remember when you could. It took a while to
Yeah,
call somebody.
Rotary dial.
Woo! Thank God we met after that. Okay. TikTok, Instagram, or Instagram. I'm Instagram.
I don't even have TikTok. I wasn't lying whenever I said I don't TikTok.
If you would have asked me this like 2 weeks ago, I would have said Instagram. But recently it's been TikTok. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, we got Darryl on the TikTok bandwagon. That's going to be his.
That's my next project.
That's his project within the business. Yeah.
I'm excited to see what you come up with. Look, we started one for Resilient Love, but we did 5 videos and got tired.
It's exhausting creating content. It's exhausting. I got, and that's kind of my frustration with this because I say, man, you see some of these people, they spend half their day just trying to do this one video, and I'm like, I could have accomplished so much shit in that 6 hours. Like, I don't have time for this. So the last TikTok I did was about Chyanne complaining to me. I said, Chyanne complains to me that nobody seems to call her all the time. I was like, so I put a how's my driving sticker on the back of her pickup. Now her phone rings off the hook. But,
Lord have mercy. That's a good one. Did you say yours?
Oh, mine's Instagram only because I have not learned TikTok.
Oh yeah. Android or iOS?
We are iOS.
Okay, I was just about to say, hold on now. We might have to go back and have another conversation after this conversation. Okay, laptop, tablet, or tablet? Laptop.
Yeah, laptop.
Okay.
Yeah, without a laptop, I don't know how anybody can do anything with a tablet. Actually, I guess if you wouldn't consider my work computer as a Surface Pro, which is kind of a tablet, but it's a computer. I really enjoy that one. It's super mobile. It's multifunctional. I enjoy it.
Okay. Shout out to Microsoft.
Yep.
Okay, so last
don't forget to send your promo code to Microsoft. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, Spotify or Apple Music? I'm Spotify.
What do you think, Quinn?
I've been Spotify so long, but Apple is beginning to sell me. They just haven't got me quite yet.
I'll be honest. I'm none of those. I'm a satellite radio guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't download a whole pile of music except for a couple something that I hear. I'll go on, download the music, and then that's about it. But
okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I guess the last one is a little obvious: audiobook or podcast.
I'm an audiobook.
It's I was gonna say it's funny. Although we have the podcast, we listen as a family to a lot of audiobooks. Darryl was listening to one about the economics. What's that one called? The one that you and Kenna were listening to.
Oh, it's a Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah. So the 12-year-old and him were listening to this audiobook, and she finds it quite interesting about all the political kind of stuff that goes on in the background. And so we listen.
It'll basically, if you ever read the book or listen to the audiobook, you'll never watch the news on or the same again. You'll never hear something or see something on the news and kind of go, I'm pretty sure there's something more behind that story. And that's what this book covers is about the history and the back history to a lot of different things. So
But with that
quite
said,
nice.
I do listen to podcasts pretty much every day, which was part of the reason why I had suggested that we start our podcast, was because I couldn't find a podcast geared towards couples that kind of, I guess was something that happened often. And so that's, I like podcasts.
Same here. And now we met. Isn't that awesome?
That's right.
So in life, after everything we've talked about, what makes you guys, how do you categorize yourself as resilient? Like how has this made you more resilient in all the life challenges, stuff you shared and stuff you haven't? How would you call yourself resilient?
Well, there isn't much that we don't share, which sometimes is kind of embarrassing whenever people are like, "Oh, I've listened to your podcast." And I'm like, "Oh, have you now? Which episode have you listened to?" I think for me as a team, one of the things that makes us really resilient is Darryl and I tend to not always be on the same page, which is fabulous because whenever I'm having a down day or down week, because usually we try not to stay down for too long, he's pretty good about picking me back up, right? And vice versa. He'll be having, kind of a down day and I'll be in my positive state. And so we can kind of get our energy back up, which I think has really helped us in our marriage and as a family and in business, is that when one of us is kind of down, we both have the ability to be able to see that we are in a down state. Like we're not oblivious to the fact that, I'm hiding my emotions because my horse died or that my parents are having some health issues. But Darryl is really good about being like, like we're going to get through this and, this will pass. And so we're really good about picking each other up. So for me, I think that's kind of what makes us, fairly resilient on my end, is that we're just kind of strong as a team.
Mm-hmm.
I guess for me, it was my mother died when I was like 8 and 6 kids in the family. And my dad abandoned us when I was like 12, 13. So I was kind of making decisions earlier on in my earlier teenage years, 15, 16 years old, that a 25-year-old should be making. And, going through that process, I failed a lot in the relationships and in life because there wasn't anybody around to kind of bounce those ideas off of. Right. So to have a parent or a friend that you trust to be able to say, "Hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think?" And this kind of realistically goes back to what we were saying before about is that, you are who you surround yourself with. And the advice that I was getting was obviously it has nothing to do with my well-being. It was everything to do with their agenda and what they thought would be funny and cute or cool. And you would just kind of go ahead and do that. So going through that process, I remember us starting the podcast and what I think that really hit home for me was that after listening to about 5 episodes, I was editing 5 episodes. I got to about the 3rd episode and I had to stop, and I had said to Chyanne, I'm like, I'm a horrible person. I was like, I'm cutting you off all the time. I'm speaking over you. I don't acknowledge the things that you say. I was like, I'm just an asshole. I'm straight up. I don't know how anybody could have dealt with me up until this point. And she looked at me and she kind of had that look that's in like, you're right. And that's kind of where it clicked for me. And I said, I need to do better. And I started to reach out a lot of people that that I didn't treat very well, or things that I wasn't very nice to, you know what I mean? And I kind of started to really kind of sow some of those oats and to be able to apologize for things that I've done in my past. And I think that moment it realized that I have the ability to get through more than I ever thought, because I was always about self-pity a lot. Obviously, my mom died or my dad abandoned me and poor me, and you should show me some. And it was just, and people, I could only imagine what people thought. And so going through this process now, I tell people that, as bad as your life possibly could be, somebody else is in a much worse situation. So start seeing the positive things and kind of move on. And I think that for me was that point where I knew that I was resilient enough to be able to kind of work through my own stuff. And then at that point I had the ability have enough foundation to be there for Chyanne and our business to the ability that I should be, or one should be there. So that was a bit deep, maybe too much.
No, that was good. Yeah, that
But-
was really powerful. Having that background and becoming more resilient through that challenge. And then, of course, with Chyanne saying in your marriage, you have showed up for her and that has strengthened her and you guys are resilient together. So
Yeah.
that was powerful.
That was.
Right
Well, I'm glad.
there.
I'm glad you can provide something anyway. Us gingers
yeah.
don't usually provide much, but
Please. You guys have provided a lot.
That was great. So many. I think even as I hear you, I'm like, everybody has the ability to be resilient. It's just whether you're going to tap in or not, or when.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we share similar backgrounds. I kind of at 14, 15, yeah, I'm making decisions that probably and people and my peers are looking at me like, you talk different.
right? And your friends are
about this area.
well, and then your friends don't treat you the same because like, oh, he's weird. And it's just like, well, am I weird, or I'm just more mature than you are at this point? Where I mean, even when I was 16, like you're making decisions and I thought I was acting mature, but I was actually I was probably more immature than I was mature about the time, because anyway, the whole story of it. But at the end of the day, it's messed up to think that a 14, 15, 16-year-old is more worried about paying his bills and making sure his brothers and sisters had food to go to school with than what video game is coming out next week, or
Right.
the baseball game. Like, there's just like the problems that you had at that you had to process are like I can't even imagine with some of these kids if they had it now to be able to make that those decisions. But
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you all share so much. I mean, it's just a very great open conversation. And overall, we appreciate you sharing tips and ways to balance marriage and business. And our listeners, could you share with our audience like final comments and also your social media handles?
sure,
You gonna give the handles?
you go ahead.
No, because I always mess them up.
No.
Because that's not my lane.
That's not
I'm
our
not the
lane.
tech one. Like, come on.
It is.
So I guess first off, the podcast is that we got this podcast with Darryl and Chyanne, and you can find us on any platform that you like to listen to podcasts on, for sure. And we are on Facebook and Instagram. That We Got This. I don't know what the handles are on Facebook, but I think if you just Googled We Got This podcast with Darryl and Chyanne, you'd definitely be able to find us. We do have our website too, wgtpodcast.com. It's kind of where we house a lot of our downloadable content. We don't have a whole pile because, I don't know, I figure less options the better. But I am recently on TikTok. I haven't quite figured that out yet, so I wouldn't bother going there if anybody's looking to go there. There's not much. And then we have the boutique, our boutique and our photography as well.
Yeah, and that's all found in our Don't Be Shy, and it's CHY. And so you can find it like Don't Be Shy Boutique, Don't Be Shy Photography, and the website is just don'tbeshy.com.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just kind of house everything to do, I guess, with
Our destination weddings.
Yeah, like everything's just kind of in that little hub. Like we have mentorship programs that we do that people can, kind of have like a brainstorming session. You just need somebody to bounce ideas off of in business or even in relationships because you feel like you're going to kill your spouse and you just want somebody to talk to. We do lots of different mentorship sessions like that.
But that's an important part is kind of where when we started the podcast, we kind of realized that, or we had the idea of where we want the idea for the podcast to go. And I'd say probably 10 or 15 episodes in, we kind of realized that the conversations that we were having with people on social media and people that were reaching out to us, that they were wanting something different and they're wanting to relate and they wanted to help. And so that's kind of where we had talked about in some of our podcasts about people, your clientele or your listeners or your viewers, need to know, like, and love you in every which way. So if you don't have all three, it's difficult. And so when we're going through these mentorship sessions, people they don't have a business mentor, or they don't have a personal mentor or relationship mentor, but nobody has a business and relationship mentor to be able to say, well, these people have actually gone through businesses together, they've failed together, and this is and we can provide our aspect as to how we can help them to some degree. And I think it's
and again, also going back to the affordable, like anything that Darryl and I do, we always try to make sure that it is affordable for pretty much anybody, because we don't have, well, we do, but we don't have like the extra $5,000 to $20,000 to go and spend on a big mentor that probably isn't realistically on our level anymore, because they've already been, 20 years into developing their businesses and the relationships. And let's face it, working through a marriage and a business 20 years ago starting out is way different than starting out now. Like you're constantly having to change on social media, and apparently schooling your children at home, and all of these other things that we're all going through, that sometimes it's just nice to have somebody to talk to. And so that's kind of why we developed these little kind of mini mentorship sessions, was for people that needed somebody.
They just need an hour to, and to kind of echo what Chyanne was saying. It has everything to do with, whenever you reach out to somebody, you don't necessarily need them to fix your problem. Sometimes you just need someone to listen to you and actively listen. And eventually they'll actually probably figure out their own problem. It's just that they just need someone to listen. And that was kind of something that I've learned more specifically for me, was active listening. And you're not just thinking of the next thing you're going to say, specifically in a fight, because I've failed many times in that situation. But when it comes to business, like if people come up like, well, my husband's this, or my wife is this, and my kids are here, and I got this business there, and I'm thinking about this, and then they start to kind of go through this thing in their head, and we haven't said a word, and 35 minutes later they're kind of like, yeah, that's a good idea. And we're like, I'm glad we could. I'm glad. And at the end of the day, you're saying there like, you know what? I really appreciate you listening to me, and I think I just needed to kind of get that off my chest. And then of course you kind of follow up with some exercises that allow them to help kind of process that in the future, so they don't get to that point again. But ultimately, it's like I said, we don't need to provide all the answers sometimes, and for anybody, sometimes you just need to listen.
Yeah. So in our long-winded answer, the Don't Be Shy website has all of the information for all of that. And Darryl and I are always here for people. Like that's kind of our biggest thing, is people want to reach out to us on social media or through mentorship programs, because we do obviously do that a little bit differently. We want to help people. We want people to not feel alone. And like Darryl's a really big advocate in not just getting a divorce, like not just giving up.
So quick, it's a quick out,
because he learned a lot in his first relationship. And I think that that's something that is a little bit unique about us, is although I wasn't married, I was in a relationship for almost as long as Darryl's marriage was. And we both just learned so much from those relationships to be able to help us as a couple, that will hopefully help other people that are new in their marriage and in their business to be able to get through. And like Darryl said, not take the easy out, right? Like sometimes it is easier just to say, I'm
life's going to be hard. Marriage is going to suck sometimes. Like your kids are going to do stupid things. Like, and these are all the realities of it. Yep. It's you either have to embrace them and not be so scared of them, or try to avoid them. At the end of the day, it's just like that festering wound, right? If you just leave it alone, it ain't going to get any better. You're going to have to.
Nobody's life is perfect, and we are here to prove that to you and to support you in. We are not alone.
That's right.
Yes. And just like their podcast, we got this.
Yep,
so,
that's right.
Thank y'all so much for just having this great conversation. Like, I feel like I'm like one of your teens, that what
That's
you
great.
just said, that was good advice.
You guys you feel like part of the family already.
Exactly. So guys, listen, check the description box, go follow them, and listen, we'll be back with another episode of Resilient Love. See ya.
Thank you to all listeners and subscribers. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple so that we can continue sharing resilient love. Thanks for listening.